In the heart of the vast savanna, where life and death exist side by side, the real danger is not the predator you can see. It is the power of nature you cannot control. For Ranger Ilera, who had dedicated her youth to protecting this land, it was a day that began with torrential rain and ended with a question of survival. The sudden, fierce flash flood swept away everything in its path. Ilera was trapped. She had fought for hours, her body exhausted, desperately clinging to a drifting tree trunk. Her face, usually strong and determined, now showed extreme fatigue, but her eyes still held a final spark of hope. The muddy brown water was trying to pull her under. In the most perilous moment, a giant, dark silhouette appeared on the riverbank through the rain. It was Zar, the renowned dominant male lion. Its wet mane was heavy with rain, and its amber eyes stared intently at Ilera with strange focus. It did not roar in threat, nor did it show any intention of hunting. Zar just stood there, silently observing the life and death struggle. Ilera knew the law of the jungle. She was the prey, and it was the ultimate predator. Yet in that instant, all rules seemed to be broken. The lion did not look at her as a meal. It looked at her as a cry for help. As a large wave slammed into her, nearly washing Ilera away, Zar suddenly turned his back, not to flee, but to run toward the sound of an engine echoing from a distance. The unthinkable courage and connection between human and animal had begun in a completely unexpected way. Ilera was more than just a ranger. She was the soul of this reserve. For 10 years, she had walked every trail, memorizing every animal, every hunting ground. She knew the pride of the lion pride, and especially Zar, the dominant male with a majestic appearance and superior intelligence. When the torrent swept her away, in Ilera's mind, she had prepared for a solitary end, not for a miraculous intervention like this. The flash flood the night before had exceeded all predictions, turning the gentle river into an angry monster. Ilera had been trapped while checking surveillance equipment at a distant outpost. Now, every breath was a battle, every grasp a challenge against the biting cold and the destructive power of the water. She felt her body gradually giving up, her consciousness fading. On the bank, Zar showed no sign of hunting. It stood there, its mane soaked, its paws deeply rooted in the thick mud. It roared, but it was not a roar of warning or threat, but a low, urgent sound, full of restlessness and anxiety. The supreme predatory instinct had been overridden by a powerful, unnameable emotion, a desperate desire to see life continue. Zar seemed to be struggling with his own helplessness against the current. The sound of a jeep engine cut through the quiet forest. Callum, a fellow ranger and Ilera's colleague, was driving. He stopped abruptly when he saw Zar blocking the path. In the dim headlights, the huge, fierce lion did not run away. This completely contradicted every learned principle. Callum, a man of logic and natural science, was completely stunned. However, Zar did not stand still. It turned its head to look at Callum, then back towards the river, repeating the action clearly and deliberately, as if to say, "Follow me." Although the instinct for survival screamed in protest,
It's all right.
something in Zar's eyes,
I'm here to help you.
an undeniable urgency, convinced Callum. He restarted the vehicle, turned off the high-beam headlights, and slowly followed the lion silhouette. They drove along the muddy forest path, Zar occasionally looking back to ensure the car was still following. When they reached the riverbank, Callum was aghast. He saw Ilera, small and weak, about to lose all strength.
Help me!
He understood. The lion did not need prey. It needed help. In that moment, Callum and Zar stood side by side, two beings from opposing worlds, now sharing a single purpose. A silent, powerful trust formed between them, a wordless pact that challenged all understanding of the wild. It was the moment when respect for life transcended the law of predator and prey. Callum no longer had time to think or argue with his rationality. The image of Ilera desperately struggling with the law was the clearest urge. He grabbed the coil of rope, quickly put on a life jacket, and took off his shoes. The waves and cold water were no longer the biggest concern. His colleague's life was paramount. Callum stepped down the muddy riverbank, his feet sinking deep into the sludge. The freezing rainwater seemed to drain his vitality. He knew he was plunging into a deadly trap where the water could drag him away at any moment. But even in that moment, he felt a silent encouragement. Zara remained stationary on the bank, unmoving. The lion's presence was no longer a threat, but a strange assurance. Zara's presence not only removed the fear of a predator, it provided a strong motivation, a wild encouragement Callum had never experienced. He entered the water. Each step became more difficult as the water rose to his chest. He had to brace himself against the fierce current, seeing only Alara, who was slowly losing consciousness. The rope tied around his waist was the only hope for him and her. The water roared as if to tear everything apart. Alara had almost completely let go of the water. Her fingertips slipped, and her head surfaced with increasingly longer intervals between each appearance. The boundary between life and death became more fragile than ever. Callum gritted his teeth, took a freezing breath into his lungs, and launched himself forward. The floodwater rose to his neck, cutting off his breath, but his eyes were fixed only on her. He surged toward her, reaching out. The first time, the icy current prevented him, only brushing her wrist. The second time, he grasped her firmly. Alara's wrist was ice cold, but that weak contact was proof she was still alive. The current immediately swept both of them away. The rope stretched taut, the anchor point on the bank enduring tremendous weight and pull. Callum struggled to maintain his breathing, using his body to shield Alara. On the bank, Zara made his strongest move yet. He took one step closer, his claws digging deep into the mud, his eyes never leaving them. The tension in his muscles was the clearest expression of his participation in this rescue. He did not attack, but he also did not stand completely aside. As they returned, the water's strength doubled. Callum had to use all his energy to keep his balance. Alara's breath was almost imperceptible. The rope pulled him slowly but steadily. Finally, he began to feel the ground beneath his feet more clearly. With the last few meters, the strength in his knees was almost gone. The cold constricted his muscles, but he could not stop. The body in his arms was not just Alara. It also carried the silent trust of a lion. With the final step, Callum collapsed, pulling Alara onto the bank. His breathing was ragged, but he had succeeded. Silence reigned, broken only by the murmur of the river. Two humans, a ranger, and a lion stood side by side, sharing an unbelievable victory against the brutal power of nature. The rain from the skies still fell,
Here, wrap
but
this
the
around
river's
you.
roar
You're
had
safe
subsided,
Thank
giving
you.
way to a heavy
We were so
silence on the
scared.
bank. Callum, covered in mud, knelt beside Alara. He shakily checked her pulse, weak but still there. He carefully cushioned her head, never taking his eyes off the lion.
We got
Zara
her.
approached closer. Its massive body was still muddy, but its gaze held no aggression or predatory intent. In that most vulnerable moment between the rescuer and the victim, the lion maintained its position as a silent guardian. Normally, this distance is a deadly boundary, but not now. Zara's presence created a sacred space where the laws of predator
Easy
and
now.
prey were indefinitely
Move the stretcher closer.
suspended. Alara coughed weakly. Callum immediately bent down, wiping water and mud from her mouth. As her chest gently rose, taking a deep breath, the tension in Zara's eyes seemed to ease as well.
We're here.
The lion lowered its
Is
head,
everyone accounted for?
as if
Yeah, we got the
sniffing or
stretcher
merely
ready.
observing the girl who had escaped the jaws of death. It was not the look of a predator toward its prey, but the deep, silent concern of one creature for another. Callum looked directly into Zara's eyes. He realized that what he was feeling was not just about escaping
found
danger,
everyone.
but a deeper truth. Zara did not just want to protect its territory.
It's finally over.
He wanted to save Alara. This challenged everything he knew about
Thank
the wild.
God.
Had Zara recognized Alara's value to the ecosystem, or had it simply recognized a soul in danger? The rescue team's siren and engine sounds broke the stillness. The arrival of the human world dissolved the strange magic between the three beings. Zara knew its mission was complete. It looked at Alara one last time, then turned away. With heavy steps, it disappeared into the forest mist, its mane lightly catching the morning breeze. It needed no thanks, no intervention. Its task was to ensure survival, and it had done so. Zar turned back once before vanishing completely, a fleeting glance that was etched into Callum's mind. When the rescue team arrived, Callum was still dazed, staring at the empty space where Zar had stood. Alara was carefully placed on a stretcher, her pulse weak but stable. A fragile life had been reconnected. Today, they didn't just save Alara. The lion saved Callum's faith. He realized that the boundary between wild and human is often one we set ourselves. Every creature has a role, and the strongest connections are formed not by friendship, but by mutual respect and a shared desperation in crisis. This story, surely, would forever change how they viewed the reserve they protected. Weeks passed. Alara returned to the reserve, bearing not just physical scars, but a profound spiritual awakening. Standing on the hilltop overlooking the vast savanna, she was no longer merely a ranger. She was a part of this complex, interdependent web of life. Her life was not just a debt to her colleague Callum, but a silent covenant with the land's most powerful creature, Zar the lion. Together with Callum, she returned to the areas Zar frequented. They did not seek Zar with fear, but with silent gratitude. Once, they spotted him far away on a rocky ridge. Zar looked at them for a moment and then disappeared. That gesture replaced 1,000 words. The debt is not paid with food or shelter. It is paid with the simple act of continuing to live, continuing to protect the shared home that both of them share. The story of Zar and Alara quickly spread.
It's the same one from last week.
It challenged entrenched rules, showing that trust can bridge the widest chasm, even between predator and human. The event was a reminder that behind the chaos of nature, there is a strong, internal desire in every creature to see life triumph. This story makes us wonder. Think about the Zars in your life. Who was the unexpected source of strength or guidance that appeared when you were most desperate? Who broke your rules to show you a different path? Our lives are always full of such silent miracles. This experience fundamentally changed how Callum and Alara did their work. They realized that conservation is not just about protecting boundaries or species counts, but about respecting the deep and often inexplicable relationships that connect all of us. They learned that sometimes the noblest human action comes from listening to the instinct.
My instinct told me otherwise.
This story is not just about a lion and a ranger. It is about the limits we are willing to cross for connection and for life. If this incredible moment of trust has touched your heart, we have two small actions for you. Press the like button if you believe in the power of connection over conflict, and subscribe to our channel. Every subscription will directly help us fund essential conservation work in Alara and Zar's territory, ensuring their improbable story continues to be shared. We want to hear your story. Comment below and tell us about a time when a person or a creature unexpectedly stepped in and changed the trajectory of your life. Share your silent miracle with our community, because the wild is not just a place to escape. It is a place to learn the deepest lessons about compassion and life. Until next time, find your trust and cherish the connections you have.